Welcome to the Neon Noise Podcast, your home for learning ways to attract more traffic to your website, generate more leads, convert more leads into customers, and build stronger relationships with your customers. And now, your hosts, Justin Johnson and Ken Franzen.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 16 of the Neon Noise Podcast, where we talk about topics that help you decode marketing and sales. Ken, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Justin. How about yourself?
I am doing fantastic. Thank you for asking. Question for you, man. Do you ever get emails from Super SEO Wizard at gmail.com telling you that he or she is going to get your company business website to the top of Google in 3 days for a one-time fee of $99?
All the time. And, it's kind of interesting. You get these emails and you're just like, junk.
How does that happen?
Junk.
Right.
The fact that someone would, I'm not going to say that, we are the smartest people of everything that we do on the planet, but the fact that you would email a company like Neon Goldfish about getting us page one Google placement proves to me one thing.
They didn't do any research.
You do not
Probably
do any
not.
research.
Right.
And you don't know who, I say, you don't know who I am, but in the same sense, you have to know who you're sending. So that's just got spam written all over it.
They just didn't take any time to craft a message that is actually going to get your attention to potentially reach out to them.
Nope.
So, I mean, if you are in business, or you're a business owner, you probably have received something along the lines of an email like this at some point. At least a lot of people that I talk to have, and I just thought of, possibly putting together a discussion around cold email outreach, items that would be, good ideas and good practices and stuff along those lines, as opposed to, receiving or sending a message similar to this, would be a good conversation for today.
No, I love it because we have to get more creative in the ways that we do our sales prospecting. I would think that. I know people will argue with me. My first boss from my first job out of college would argue with me on this, that cold calling is dead.
Cold calling is not dead.
Cold calling is not dead, but picking up a phone and dialing for dollars is dying.
And if you have a good campaign set up with doing some cold outreach, I disagree.
By itself. I see the angle that you're taking. I'm stalking, like just picking up that phone and going from one number to the next, to the next, to the next.
Sure.
And
I agree with you there.
Perfect. And because I did the use of the phone's not a dead, not a dead vehicle for sales by any means of the imagination. Right. It's actually very powerful when used, much like marketing tactics when they're grouped together into a solution have compounding effects. I agree with the phone being a good use, but what we're talking about is, all right, so how do we get in front of someone that doesn't know who we are? How do we say there's a target prospect over there. Yeah. I know that I can help them with the products or services that my business provides, but they have no idea who I am.
Sure.
So I could pick up the phone and do a cold call.
Good.
Or we could start off with
research,
a cold outreach email or a cold email. And that's what you kind of referenced. We're going to talk about today. So let's start off with just defining what is a cold outreach email, or just we're going to probably reference this as cold email.
All right. So a cold outreach email, the definition, it is an email sent to someone that you have no relationship with. This is someone that you've identified as a target prospect, or you're trying to connect with them to basically build rapport, get them to visit a landing page on your website, schedule a meeting. It's a digital version of picking up the phone and doing an old-fashioned cold call.
Exactly. And so you look at this and you say, okay, great. How is that different than spam? You start to say, okay, you're emailing someone that doesn't know you, a message that they didn't ask to receive. Isn't that spam? And so I think that it's important that we identify maybe some of the differences between cold email and spam so that we can discount the negativity that comes with the word spam and kind of show how it differs and where its place is in the selling process.
Right.
So,
well, and I think that we kind of talked about that a little bit initially. Your spam email is, super SEO wizard guy, right?
Sure.
I mean, that's that's what, you are automatically tagging as spam. However, if somebody sent me a cold email, okay, and I didn't know who that was. In fact, I had somebody do this not too long ago, and it was really effective because they plugged in some information about our business in the subject line that I guarantee you the only way that they know about that is if they did a little bit of research on us first, so it opened my eyes and it was, what was the message? It was from, what the heck were they? They were a content marketing company or somebody that, third-party content marketing company or something along those lines. But his outreach was he referenced, how we started a Neon Goldfish, how we got our name, and he referenced something about the band, and it got my attention, and, so this guy could have taken that approach, or he could have taken an approach, like the SEO wizard guy, where I'm just going to automatically mark that as spam. And you could tell that, this guy actually took a little bit of time into looking into our company and, actually crafting a message that's going to get me to respond.
Yeah. So that message was targeted obviously at you because no one else has that freaking story, man. It's
absolutely
it's an oddball story.
Right.
And so the spam, so the counter, so cold outreach is it's a customized message that's targeted. They targeted us. They went and they researched and they targeted us and found something in particular, and they created a message around us specifically. Where the flip side of that, spam is the same message that's blasted out to lists that are thousands of people, and everyone's receiving the same message. They might have some quote unquote targeting that they do with personalization tokens, such as inserting a first name. But there's no more research done outside of some top level demographics that they might have used to build the search, like what industry or SIC codes that your business is in, maybe age group, maybe your geographical location, or the title of the position you hold at your company. That's all the consideration that was taken. Right. And, SEO wizard 342 at gmail.com likely bought a list. It was probably a crappy list at that, but we received the same message that everyone received. No customization, no. Right. And so the other component there is I always look at to differentiate between spam or something legitimate is the email address. Because if it's a free email address, like a Gmail account, I look at it and go, a lot of them are, and spammers use Gmail accounts so that they don't get their domain name blacklisted.
Yeah.
If I see something from an actual business and I can do a search or plug in that business, that domain name into an address bar and pull up a legitimate website, I'm like, okay, I can connect this person to a particular company. This seems a little bit more legitimate. Yeah. I'm not doing all that on the fly, but it will help me validate. So let's say they do pique my interest with us referencing how we came up with the name Neon Goldfish. Like, okay, great. And they have something. I want to double check and say, okay, is this dude legit or not? I would plug in the website address from the email. And if that checks out and things align, then I'm like, okay, I have a little bit more confidence in the legitimacy of him and what he's talking about. Doesn't necessarily mean that I'm, hook, line, sinker sold on it.
No, but he did a good job getting your attention.
Exactly. The other thing, much like the example you made of where he mentioned our how we came up with our name is the email message itself is more conversational in a cold email, whereas spam is typically more pitchy, more salesy, more talking to you,
right,
and trying to get you to act now, and there's no value there.
No.
And then, the other thing that I like to think of when I'm trying to differentiate, creating one of these to not be appear spammy, or how I'm trying to say that a cold email would be different is, do they include an address, a physical address? We have our address in our signature of every email we send out.
Yeah.
But a spammer is not going to put their address in the actual message. So, you're looking at some of these things like, okay, great. How is cold email different than spam? And you just look at it. It's personalized. It's come from a real person at a real company. It's conversational. And
there may be some value there.
Exactly. There might be some value about it. Absolutely. So, we say all this and we've defined what cold email is, and I guess pointed out some differences between a cold email and spam. So why would we want, why use, where does cold email come into play in our sales process or sales efforts?
Sales efforts, or I actually have a good example of this on what, something that we're actually trying to do right now. We've got an individual that we are trying to bring on the podcast, and we have crafted a personalized message that we are going to send out to him to get his attention. He doesn't know us. Okay. He may or may not want to come on our show, but we've taken the time to actually put together an email and get his attention. He's into copywriting. His name is Neville. We decided to put together an email. We actually we attended a SumoCon last August, and he was actually one of the main reasons that we decided to go to SumoCon. So we put together this message, and we actually took a photo of him and put a crown on him, put him in a king's, outfit. And we're going to send this email out to him with a picture of him on there. We want him to come on the Neon Noise podcast because we know that he's the king of copywriting. And I've also got a photo of myself in there just so I can reference back to we had a chat one morning, and just so that he can, put my face on it. And the photo's actually of last weekend winning the Orlando Chili Cook-Off, and we're hosting the trophy and whatnot. So it's just a different message that is going to absolutely get I would hope that he's going to open it and go, all right, man, these guys are pretty cool. And, maybe I'll go and
they're idiots.
Podcast, right? Or they're idiots, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, but we're going to, we're going to get a response from him, and we're basically just telling him, respond back. And if you want to do this, then awesome. Yes, come on. I want to be on a guest on your podcast, or if I'm not interested at all, then get lost, and
exactly.
we're going to find out if it's going to work or not. So that's just a good example of we're taking time and, actually putting together a message that it should leave a mark on him, and he should at least respond, hopefully.
Exactly. No, I mean, that's spot on. He's a well-known in the copywriting industry. He's even outside of that. Yeah, you're right. We went to SumoCon, which was a conference out in Austin, Texas, this past August. And yeah, you mentioned, and he was one of the reasons I wanted to go as well. I follow him, I get his emails. I pretty much anything he puts out there, I listen to, because he's
the king of copywriting.
he has a great approach, and he really brings a lot of value when we consider such a topic that has so much more importance these days than it ever did before, and that being copy. And so, yeah, he's obviously someone we want to get on the Neon Noise podcast as a guest. And we put in a lot of time. We've done research in like Justin said, we've crafted out this message. We've tried to kind of go the angle. I've tried mirroring or mimicking in our message some of the ways he presents his emails. Yeah. And that he uses lots of images that are fun. And so, yeah, we thought what better image than Justin hoisting a trophy after a chili cook-off competition he won.
Do you remember this guy?
Just say, hey, I'm the one in the middle. Remember me? Because anyone looking at it's going to be like, what the hell is that? Because you're wearing like a colonial wig or something crazy like that in there, right? It's a strange picture.
We were the founding fathers, so we were playing off of the President's Day stuff. And yes, I was dressed up as Benjamin Franklin. So
I could totally tell you look like Ben. And so, the picture you mentioned where, we put a crown on his head and that, obviously we want to connect with him and, we're going to kind of cover step by step the routes you go or the method you would go through in creating a cold email. But, we asked him a very specific question. Do you want to be on our podcast? And we say, if yes, respond with hell yes. And if no, then respond with get lost, jerk face. Because
we're going to get a response.
Yes, that's the entire thing. It's right. Let's go a little out there. Let's have some fun. Let's, I think that, this might get his attention, and that's really what we're looking at. Now, we'd love to have him on. I mean, that's the ultimate goal is to get him on this podcast because I think that he'd be a fantastic guest for everyone to hear. But all in all, outside of the conversation you had with him at SumoCon, Justin, we don't have a relationship with Neville at all.
Exactly.
We've given him some money, but thousands of people give him money.
Sure. So how do we stand out? Right.
Right. So first step in the process of creating this cold email, we did research. We knew our buyer persona. In this instance, it was an individual. And we knew him decently well because we've kind of built a one-sided relationship with him over the course of last year plus 2 years, where we consume his content and watch his videos and read his blog posts and you get a feel for who he is, how he talks, his tone. And so that really was, we're talking about the buyer persona. You're getting down to a single individual. But in your step, when you're looking at someone you're targeting, know if the type of buyer persona that you have outlined, make sure they fit one of your buyer personas, because obviously that's going to be the target you go after. But research them on the World Wide Web. Check them out on LinkedIn, on Twitter.
Crazy how much info you can find on people.
Yeah, get a little stalky.
A little bit of research. You're kind of going into stalker mode, but
sure. Exactly. But if you can learn a little bit about something, the person that emailed you that referenced how we got our name obviously went to our website and read our company history. Right. So they stalked us a little bit, but
it did some digging.
Got our attention. So check them out, see if there's anything, if there's a blog post, if there's an article about a recent award they won, or maybe they
won the Chili Fest, man.
They just won the chili cook-off.
Come on.
Sure. Or maybe they just got back from a conference and they blogged about it, and you could talk about, hey, that you went to that conference and I was there too. Or, hey, a colleague of mine went and they said they really enjoyed this speaker.
Yeah.
Anything that you can connect that they're instantly going to be able to identify that this isn't BS spam. This is actually a person on the other line. And, the next step, you want to write your message like you're talking to someone on the phone or in a meeting. You want to make it conversational. You don't want to get it so rigid and pitchy and professional that it is boring to read. You want to have fun with it. You don't have to be as serious as you think. I'm not saying don't be unprofessional, but be conversational.
Yeah.
Personalize the email too. And you take some of that information that you grab from the research, you plug it in there. Obviously, you want to make sure that your email looks as custom crafted as possible. Now, when you go through this, you're going to start to establish some general foundations in the emails you create. And what I mean is, by default, if you don't start off by doing this, you eventually come up with one or two email templates. You will continually customize for each individual, but most of the foundation of that email, especially if it's the same intent. So in the case of Neville and the email we're sending to him to be a guest on our podcast, the majority of that email
could be used again,
but we would take the story maybe on how we met or how we connected, and obviously customize that towards our new targeted prospect. And maybe the tone might change a touch, because I think that we're probably going.
I like Get Lost Jerk Face. I think that's
Get
funny.
Lost Jerk Face is funny.
We're keeping that.
Sure. The images obviously would be different, but the majority, the flow, the structure, the backbone, the blueprint, I guess is the term I'm searching for, will be consistent throughout. When you're writing your copy, don't get fluffy, don't get fancy, don't say more than that you need. Keep it simple. Get to the point. Save the long, sophisticated, overly stuffy professional wordsmithing. This isn't a legal document. You're not going to impress someone by using 6-syllable words.
That is probably what's going to get deleted fastest.
Well, if it's challenging to read, then you've already intruded. It's still an unsolicited message. So
correct.
Be simple. Be direct. Make it simple to read. Get to the point, and then quickly identify what is in it for them. Tell them what they're going to receive from you. What is their benefit for taking whatever action it is that you're asking them to take? Another thing that you can include that I think is huge, and I know you do this a lot, Justin, with the cold emails that you send out for Neon Goldfish, is you're a giver. You give them something.
Give them some tips.
Yeah.
Go out and find something that's going to be beneficial for them, and, include that in the message. I mean, I can't even begin to tell you how many times that you get responses when you actually give something of value to somebody. Point out something that, hey, if you change this, maybe your conversion rates go up, or, if you position, something a little bit differently, and just give them something of value. And you'd be surprised how many times that even if you're doing a follow-up call or something along the lines after that, they absolutely remember that, oh yeah, you sent me over that information about, and I use that for, my marketing department. And it's helpful to give a give. Give the give.
Give the give.
Give a tip.
Give a tip. And you bring up an interesting point that I wanted to touch on, because you had mentioned that they recall you sending them the email message when you follow up via phone.
Yep. You may not hear back from them on that message that you're sending out, but if you are following up to the information that you're sending them, they definitely remember that.
Okay. So you're saying that they likely won't reply to your email, but when you call, they're like, oh yeah, I remember you.
Correct. So I would say that majority of the time you're not going to receive a response to that information that you send them. However, if you are following up via phone, that they definitely recall the information that you have sent them.
And I think that this is one of, if not the most impactful important reasons that have the biggest impact for using cold email. Is we referenced earlier in the phone call or in the conversation that the phone call by itself is something that's dying.
Yep.
Now, if you were, and just answer me this question, if you were to take and do that phone call without using that email, how would that work out for you?
It's definitely going to be more difficult.
Exactly.
I mean, you don't have anything to reference. That's just it. Like if you let's just say that you have, you put together 8 messages that you want to send to this individual over the course of 30 days or 60 days or whatever the time frame is. And each time that you send that message, maybe you follow up the next day or that day with a phone call just to make sure that they received that information that you sent them. You actually have something that you can reference. So it's not just, you're not just, calling this person over and over again. You actually can reference, hey, I sent you this material, did you have an opportunity to take a look at that? And it just gives you something to open the conversation up with, as opposed to, not having anything to go for.
No, exactly. It's like an icebreaker. So if you think if you take someone that's completely a cold prospect and they've never ever talked to you before, you send them an email that is research, it's got contents that clearly shows you've researched and you're trying to connect with them. It's conversational. It gives them something, it provides them a tip. When you make that call, there's a chance, I put it this way, you have a better chance of connecting with them and getting them to take your call.
Sure.
If you've sent them that email than if it was out of the blue. No ifs, ands, or buts. So the email
100%, no question.
It just gives you that it's that soft introduction, that icebreaker, whatever you want to call it, that warms up maybe that phone call, because you found that the phone's the way to actually connect with them, but the email is the.
They need to work together. No question, they have to work together.
Awesome. No, that's great. I totally just left fielded us there from our list. So but I didn't want to miss that point, because I think it's an important point in where this fits in. And you brought up an awesome nugget of info there. So we were talking about give them something and the tips there that you said recall when you give them a phone call. So that's awesome. The other thing that we need to include back to the emails is in the message, actually ask them a question. Now, you said you don't get a lot of replies from the emails that you send, but I think you have to ask them a question. You have to throw in some type of, hey.
You'll get some. I'm not saying that you don't get any, but, it's definitely a lower percentage.
Sure. But it's all part of the process. Again, much like the cold call via phone as an individual tactic, the cold email is a contribution to a sales process that's can be truly effective. So, next item I have here that is to include some type of opt out, whether that's in the form of a PS, and I say this, not to give them an easy out, but you want to be courteous in the same sense. You're reaching out to them and you're kind of blindsiding them. And you've done research, and we've even found this in some of the things that we thought we had the right individual, but I think especially first introduction before you've identified if this is in fact the right person at this company that you should be talking to, is just include hey, if you're not the right person I should connect with on XYZ, could you please point me in the right direction? Exactly. It's an easy, maybe that's your ask too. I don't know. I think you should have another question you ask specifically besides that, but throw that in there. It's really, I think, a courteous statement. In you can do all the research in the world, but you might be talking to Sally and Bill's the one that handles this.
Yeah.
You don't want to bark up Sally's tree if you're going to find out after 4 emails and 3 phone calls that you should be talking to Bill. Just ask right out of the gates. And that moves into the next, 1 email or 2 emails isn't going to cut it.
About it.
Yeah. You have to continue following up. There has to be, set yourself up an actual schedule or a process or true defined methodology of, this is how many times I'm going to send out an email and follow up with phone calls, or however, what's your recipe, Justin? What is it that you like to do?
I like to, number 1 or 2 is not going to work. I can 1,000% agree with that. You need to have minimum of, I would say, at least 5. If you can do more, That's awesome. I like the number 7 to 8. If you have 7 to 8 messages that you can craft, that you can personalize to that individual, that's a great number. And then what I like to do with each one of the messages that I send out, I do follow-ups on every one of those. So if I can connect with somebody, touch somebody, between 15 and 20 times, I am more likely, obviously, to, number one, they're receiving, 8, 9 messages from me, emails from me with information, with tips, whatever it is that I'm sending them. And then I'm following up with phone calls. They definitely know who I am. There's no question that, like, if I eventually get them on the phone, that I can reference any of the information that I've sent them, and they're absolutely going to remember that. And a lot of people, they decide to stop, after your onesie twosies, just like you said, they'll send out a couple messages and, oh, God, I really haven't heard back from that person. So, maybe I should move on. No, don't move on. Keep going, because, eventually you are going to get through that person. And even if it's just, at the last, outreach message that you send them is hey, I've, sent you all this information, and just break up with them, basically, tell them that you're not going to send them anything anymore. And you'd be surprised how many messages and responses you get from that, because they actually do find value in what you're sending them. But, maybe, and now it's a scarcity point where they're going, all right, well, he's not going to send me any more information about, I find value in the information that they're sending me, so maybe I should connect with them at this point.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It works. And, just a lot of people, they give up too fast, and just keep following up.
Don't stop believing, right?
Yep, absolutely.
That's just it. That is frequency matters. Getting that frequency, getting those at bats, and you're going to build a connection with them, even if it's that one-sided connection. That
they're going to know who you are. I can promise you that.
That's and what do you want to do? You want to connect with them. You want to get them on the phone or get them to respond, and who knows when they might have a need. And if you continue to be that squeaky wheel, you're going to be the one that might get the grease. So
you got it.
The last thing to do is just test your process, test your messages, and track your successes and your failures. Identify, what your open rate is. Yeah. How many people you're actually connecting with and getting on the phone, and how many people are saying yes to whatever your ask is. Track those numbers, refine your message. Even though they're customized messages, your approach might change. So if we find out that the get lost jerk face thing isn't working so hot,
we're going to change it up. I think I'll be honest with you. We're testing this now. So obviously you guys are going to know if we have Neville on in the future relatively soon. I think that our open rate on these messages is going to be extremely high.
Yes.
I think it's going to be very, very, very high. So I'm excited to see what those results look like here in the near future.
Now, we still have to craft. I think we have to spend some time on a good subject line. I don't think we really figured that out just yet, but the subject line is going to be important to get that initial open. We will definitely keep everyone up to date on Project Neville, getting them on the Neon Noise podcast. And even if we swing and miss big time,
that's all right.
But hey,
it would have been a good try.
Well, but I think what we just vocalized is if this first message doesn't work, we're going to try again, right?
Yeah, we're not stopping there.
We're going to try again and try again. So
we'll get his attention at some point.
We will. He might even be listening to this right now. And the light bulb goes off and be like, all right, guys, I'm going to give you a call.
Love it. Good stuff. All right. Well, that was a little bit quicker than most of our podcasts, but that's a wrap for today on cold outreach emails. We want to thank you guys for listening to our conversation today. Be sure to check out the show notes at neongoldfish.com/podcast. Thanks again for your support for the podcast. Please leave us a review on iTunes, Google Play, or whatever platform it is that you guys are listening on, and tell anyone else that you might find our conversations about marketing and sales helpful about the Neon Noise podcast. If you guys have any ideas for topics or guests, anything along those lines for the show, please send us a message through Twitter at Neon Goldfish or through our website at neongoldfish.com. Have a good one today, and we'll see you guys again next week.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Neon Noise Podcast. Did you enjoy the podcast? If so, please subscribe, share with a friend, or write a review. We want to cover the topics you want to hear. If you have an idea for a topic you'd like Justin and Ken to cover, connect with us on Twitter at Neon Goldfish or through our website at neongoldfish.com.